Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and I came across this yesterday, and I really want to share this with you. Now, for those of you who may not know, I am a conservative Christian, and if you go to my YouTube channel, you can see that if you click on the About, I talk about being a conservative Christian. This is my journey through the media free-for-all as I sift through it from my conservative Christian perspective to discern the truth from the lies. So I hope you all know that about me, that's where I stand, and my other channel, Garden Devotions, makes my stance pretty clear on what I believe religiously. Everything I do is from a conservative Christian perspective. In regards to this one, this is what it's going to be about. Now, if you're not a Christian, please stick with me on this because I think some of the things I'm going to show you will have bigger ramifications across our entire country. And I think it's really important for everybody to know what's going on here. So, this place, Riverview Christian Academy, is under attack right now. And if you're a praying person, please pray for them because they've got some difficulties going on. Well, this is considered a private boarding school in Northern California. And what they do is they take troubled kids that are having maybe drug problems or gang problems or whatever the case is, maybe even academic issues. And they bring them to this boarding school and they give them a stable environment and help them to move in a positive direction instead of a negative direction. And so they've been working on this, and it says very clearly right here, RVCA does not conduct conversion therapy, which means trying to convert someone from being a homosexual. In fact, we do not provide any type of therapy. We also do not give punishment for expressing sexual preference. In order to keep students focused on their education, sexual or romantic encounters or entanglements between students are not allowed. This rule applies to all students regardless of gender or sexual preference. This is also in observance of California law. Now, you'll find out why they say that in just a minute. So this is the organization. This came out yesterday. Monday, June 10th, and California authorities raid Christian school, order it to change beliefs on sex. And so this happened, although the raid happened back in January, this is what happened. A California case that began with police raiding a private Christian boarding school could have major implications for religious education in the state. Attorneys for the school are warning. Riverview Christian Academy in rural Northern California was raided in January by 16 armed law enforcement officials who were accompanied by 2 canine units and 17 social workers. Internet rumors had surfaced accusing the school of housing illegal drugs and weapons, prompting the search. Despite law enforcement finding nothing, the legal case continued. We're going to go to the actual website of the Pacific Justice Institute in just a minute and read their statement on it because I think they did a good job of presenting it. And so, this is the problem that they're having. And it says, students at a licensed boarding school facility in the state of California, have the state-protected right to spiritual and sexual exploration. That's what the state says. Yep, that is a rule. And so that's why they're trying to get it so that they do not have to be a licensed boarding school. And, because parents don't send their kids to a Christian school for spiritual and sexual exploration. They want a structured environment where kids are taught from a Christian worldview. And that's part of the problem that they're having. And all of this came because of a rumor on the internet. And who'd the rumor come from? Well, do you remember who put out the dossier? Yeah, that's who it is. Buzzfeed. So Buzzfeed printed this article. When was it? September 8th, 2018. Women say a school for troubled teens punished girls for being gay. Okay, when you read through this, I don't think they were so much as punished. I think probably there were a lot of factors entering in, and they do keep them distant, because have you ever worked with teenage kids? The emotional entanglements they get in if they're, having relationships with others in the class and everything, you just can't get them to focus when they're like that. I mean, you got a kid that's like the brain of the class, and then they broke up with their boyfriend, and they come in and they fail a test. It's just, they have a hard time of dealing with all the emotions that are going on. And it's logical because it's a difficult time of your life when things are changing and everything. But this Buzzfeed article is trying to make it out to be something different than I think it was. Now, I can't say for sure because I wasn't there. I didn't talk to these people. But knowing Buzzfeed and knowing their reputation for putting out salacious and unverified things, I don't really believe this. And so if you go to the lawyer's site, which I think is probably the more logical place to go, you'll see that they're talking about it. Pacific Justice Institute, which is PJI, is fighting for the future of a Christian boarding school in Northern California that has been targeted by state officials. And I think they really were. PJI believes the case has chilling implications for Christian schools throughout California. And I think it has implications for all of us, because you know how it works. Things start in California and then kind of wave through the rest of the United States. So you can bet that if the state wins this, this is going to be an issue throughout the United States. So I really hope this Pacific Justice Institute wins this case. On January 18, 2019, a raid was conducted of Riverview Christian Academy, located in rural Northern California. The raid, and here it talks about it again, the raid, which terrified students and staff, consisted of 16 armed law enforcement from the California Highway Patrol, 2 canine units, and 17 social workers. I mean, that's a lot of people, right? A lot of people. I don't know how many kids are at the school. I'm sorry, I forgot to look that up. I would say it's not a huge school, so that's a big bunch of people to come into this school. Anyway, the state later admitted the raid was prompted by an internet rumor put forward by an online left-wing tabloid, which we know who that was, not to mention any names, Buzzfeed. The state was duped into thinking the school housed illegal drugs, stockpiled weapons, and was preparing for an end-times apocalypse, yet the Waco-style raid turned up no such evidence. Instead of apologizing for its dangerous blunder, oh, you really think California is going to apologize? No. The state doubled down and began imposing daily fines against the school for allegedly operating as an, quote, unlicensed community care facility. RVCA has actually operated as a private school for the past 25 years, filing an annual affidavit with the California Department of Education, as do other private schools and homeschools in the state. The state is now taking the position that, due to recent legislation, it is no longer possible for a private boarding school to operate without extensive licensing and oversight by the Department of Social Services. Yeah. In other words, you won't be able to teach anyone anything unless the state permits it. And the state says you can. You know, can you see the control? Talk about 1984. Wow. And then it goes on, but licensing is more than just an administrative headache. It would require the Christian school to relinquish its moral standards. For instance, the state requires that licensed facilities allow students to have the right to engage in spiritual and sexual exploration, which we saw in the other article, which contradicts the goals of many parents who enroll their kids in RVCA. The school operates under the Ministry of Teen Rescue, a nonprofit that comes alongside parents who think a change of scenery and alternative educational environment is just what their teens need. Teen Rescue was founded in 1989 by Phil Ludwig and launched the school in 1993. After a wildfire destroyed its campus in Southern California, it moved to its present 250-acre location in rural Northern California. And I think it's right around Redding, and that is a very conservative area there of California. The campus includes dormitories, classrooms, a cafeteria, athletic field, library, and offices. PJI's lead attorney in this case, Kevin Snyder, commented, "Reading the state's search warrant and legal filings in this case is chilling. This armed incursion on a faith-based school shows that the state wants nothing less than to take jurisdictional control over Christian education in California. This is rooted in its disagreement with millennia-old religious values. Those in power in California just do not like conservative Christian values. PJI filed a federal lawsuit on behalf of the school in mid-March and sought a restraining order to prevent imposition of the fines. In April, the federal judge abstained and dismissed part of the case, believing it should first go through the state's administrative process. With daily fines mounting, and as PJI then began vigorously pursuing an administrative appeal, the state abandoned its own process and filed suit against the school in Shasta County Superior Court. PJI is now defending against that suit. In 25 years of practice, I've never seen this level of aggressive, militant, and ideologically driven conduct by a state agency against a religious institution. Wow, doesn't the Constitution say that the government shall make no law about religious freedom? This seems like it's making a law. For years, as the public schools have become increasingly hostile toward parents, the courts have insisted that the parent's option is to instead choose private education. Now, that fundamental right is also under attack. Now, as it says, there is a law, and here's the law. If you go through the top part of this, you can see here over at the side that I'm about halfway down. Well, the first half of it is all legal speak where it's like defining terms. So it defines what is a private alternative boarding school. But let's just go with it and say that, okay, if they're saying this is a private alternative boarding school, shall submit a staff training plan to the department as part of its plan of operation. In addition to the training required of group home staff, the staff training plan shall include, but not be limited to, training in all of the following areas. Now, this is required by the state. The state says you have to have this training. If you want to be open, you have to have this training. Okay, now, if you watched one of my previous videos, and I can't tell you which one it was, sorry, but I told a story about the dog poop brownies. Well, this is some dog poop brownies right here, because it doesn't matter how many wonderful and delicious and great ingredients you put in there, there's still dog poop hidden in. And that's what makes it totally unpalatable. So, number 1, youth rights as described in subdivision D, physical and psychosocial needs of youth, appropriate responses to emergencies, including an emergency intervention plan, cultural competency and sensitivity in issues relating to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities. Now remember, who's putting the training together for these people so they will be certified to be able to do this? Yep, it's the state. And so they're the ones that are promoting this agenda. The people in charge, they're going to be writing it. They're going to make sure it says all the things they want it to. And I can guarantee it's not going to be something that's going to be friendly to what the Bible teaches. And then it goes on. It has all these different things. And, some of the things, as I said with the dog poop brownies, some of the things, they're very good. They should be accorded dignity in his or her personal relationships with the staff, youth, and other persons. Obviously, yes. To live in a safe, healthy, and comfortable environment where he or she is treated with respect. Yes, obviously, we want that. To be free from physical, sexual, emotional, or other abuse or corporal punishment. Yes, we want that too. That needs to be part of it. But as it goes on, you start seeing some of the dog poop. And you get down here to about, where is it? I think it's about letter O, if I remember correctly. Yes, letter O. To have caregivers who have received instruction, and who are they receiving the instruction from? Yes, the state. On cultural competency. What the heck does cultural competency mean? I mean, serious, cultural competency, that we are competent to live in our country? I'm not sure I understand what that meaning is. And sensitivity, relating to, and best practices for, now this is a teaching term, best practices. It's supposed to be the best way of teaching or a best way of doing things. And so, but you know what the problem with that term is? It's very subjective. Who determines its best practices? Well, best practices, maybe you think this is best practices, and this somebody else says, no, it's not. This is. So That was a term that I always kind of smiled at whenever I read it in all my teaching stuff because, yeah, best practices is in the eye of the beholder. So what you think may not be what I think. Best practices for providing adequate care to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender youth in out-of-home care. And to be free from acts that seek to change his or her sexual orientation, including efforts to change his or her gender expressions or to eliminate or reduce sexual or romantic attractions or feelings toward individuals of the same sex. Now, do you remember what it said back here? Yeah, they do not conduct conversion therapy. Why did they say that? Because that's what they were being accused of. They don't give punishment for expressing sexual preference. And, they just say we keep them from being involved with each other just because that causes problems and you can't get them to focus because they're teenagers and they have hormones going through their minds. And so it's better to, kind of eliminate that particular issue. So that's why they had that. I mean, when you look at this, there is just simply no way, okay, as a conservative Christian, that I could do this. I'm not going to sit through some kind of training and I'm not going to regurgitate all the facts they want me to on their little test at the end that says that this is valid. Because the whole point of my Christian faith is that God determines what is or isn't right. He's the one that makes the decision about where morality is. And he's given us the Bible to tell us that. That's what the Bible is all about. It is to give us the instruction we need to live our life here in a way that is going to be pleasing to God. And it tells us what things God says are right and what things he says are wrong. And so we're supposed to try to do the right things. This God has spoken on. It's very clear. And he says this is not something that he approves of. So how could I, as a conservative Christian, turn my back on my own faith and say, oh yeah, we just need to say everyone will be accepted as they are? Well, I'll accept you as you are, but I'm not going to condone your lifestyle. It doesn't mean that I hate you. It doesn't mean that I am going to stand here and preach to you because, see, when I look at this whole subject area, I know that I'm as much of a sinner as anybody else. And so I can't put myself up on a pedestal and saying, this is a horrible sin. It's the worst sin in the world. No, it's not. They're all bad. Okay? They all go against the God who created us. So they're all bad. And it doesn't matter if I'm doing something wrong or someone else is doing something wrong. They're all equally sinful. And they all equally go against our Creator God. And in this case, this is something he specifically said is not acceptable to him. So because of that, when we are preaching the gospel, we've got that information. And it's not a matter of interpretation. You can't just look at it and say, well, I think it's this or I think it's that. Although there are a lot of non-conservatives who have been trying to do that. If you wonder why I keep qualifying my beliefs as conservative Christian, it's because of that. Because, yeah, there are many who call themselves Christians who don't have the same worldview as I do. I see the Bible as being God's word that tells me how I should live. And if what I'm doing doesn't line up to the Bible, I have to change myself and not the Bible to make it fit. Okay? I make my life fit the Bible, not the other way around. And because of that, this whole concept right here, and I really think from reading their statement of faith that they probably believe the same way, when it says, you have to be free from acts that seek to change his or her sexual orientation. Well, we can't guarantee that because the Bible is all about change. That's the whole message of the gospel. We're sinners. We need to change. And God comes in and does this miraculous work in our lives to change us, to make us more in his image. And so the idea that you're telling us we can't, tell somebody that God can change you. You may have homosexual tendencies. You may want to live that lifestyle, but God can change you. And that's going to be against the law. That's a problem for me as a conservative Christian. It really is. And so I think we need to be aware of this, that this is what's going on in California. I'm sure those who are there probably know about this. But then again, my niece used to live there, and she said that, a lot of it's been slipped by, and people just don't know that these things are in their laws. And this right here is really a problem for all Christians, because if all the schools have to do this, then your children are being indoctrinated. And what they're being told is something that is contrary to what the Bible teaches. So when I'm put in that position and I have to choose between what God says or the state says, I'm going to choose God every time. So we need to be prepared to do that, because those choices are going to be tough and they're going to cause some real problems. And that's what's happening here. So they are taking it to court. Like I said, they've got these lawyers here. They're trying to get it dismissed so they don't have to be shut down, but it's a battle. It's a real battle going on, and it's not just a political battle, although it is. It's also a spiritual battle, and that's why, please pray, because there is such a spiritual battle going on in our world today, and especially in our country right now. We're seeing a lot of things that are coming to a head. We're seeing a lot of corruption exposed. And we need to make sure that spiritually we're praying for the spiritual health of our nation and the wisdom of our leaders so that they will do what's right. So that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.